He's usually right on top of anything New World Order that's coming out and the bills that they're coming out with.
All right.
Yeah, I really like Ron Paul and Cynthia McKinney out of Georgia. You can follow those two, and they're usually right on top of the agenda because they're one of us.
Yeah, okay.
And it's amazing they're still in Congress, so you know it's got the Lord's hand all over them, protecting them.
As you said before, he's in control of the timetable no matter what we try to do here.
Yeah, he is.
But that doesn't stop him from making every single solid attempt at any opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
That's a bit of frustration.
Yeah, I mean, they're being pushed on all sides to get going, and the Lord throws them a curveball and sets them back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just always a game on all sides.
Well, Sherry, I'll get off now and listen to the rest of the show. I appreciate you taking my call and giving me some time.
All right, well, thanks for calling in.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we're going to go on a, I don't know, how about going on a 30-second or minute break here. I know Steve gets ready for about a break this time. When we come back, listeners call in 260-356-2611. We're going to take about a minute break right now. We'll be right back.
This is the Reality Radio Network on Telstar 5 Transponder 5 and on the internet at realityradionetwork.com.
Do you know where the 78 potentially active volcanoes in U.S. are located? And do you know the locations of the top 300 prime terrorist targets? You can find these answers and more in the new interactive CD book, Prudent Places USA. With the more than 50 interactive parameters, you can pinpoint natural and man-made disaster areas, brewing environmental catastrophes, the safest cities, the best places for solar and wind energy, and much, much more. Complete with 3 gigabytes of detailed information on each of 3,000 plus counties in the U.S., including 550 high-resolution full-color maps and full-color photographs, as well as detailed information and analysis to help you zero in on the best places to live, the ideal location for cabins and vacation homes, as well as safe and unsafe areas. Get Prudent Places USA for only $29 plus shipping by calling New Millennium at 888-803-4438. That's 888-803-4438 to order on the web or at murkywater.com.
And now, once again, back to Sherry. And, Sherry, you have a caller.
Okay, go ahead and put them on.
You're up, caller.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Sherry. It's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, hello.
Hi, my name is Kate. I live in Alabama.
Okay.
There are 2 issues I wanted to ask you about. One, I'm an environmental activist and have been since '83, and we fight toxic waste down here in Alabama. And what I've seen in my work, I've traveled the nation, is the fact that newspapers are prohibiting the writers from writing the articles in favor of the citizens that are fighting these sites. All along, in fact, I've met several who have lost their jobs for trying to write about the citizens, because it seems the industries and the corporations, of course, have much more clout.
Yeah.
With the newspapers.
They're controlled.
Yeah.
I was in newspaper journalism for a while, and it's all controlled.
Exactly. We would write our letters to the editor, and of course we couldn't compete with the kind of money the corporations that, produce hazardous waste could put in against us.
Yeah.
No way. In fact, one editor said he thought it was against his conscience to print our letters to the editor anymore, because it wasn't fair to the company that had to pay for their 3- and 4-page ads. So I told the editor I'd be willing to pay if he'd let me put my letter to the editor in. He didn't want to do it, but he was going to charge me $35. So I wrote my check out, and I said, "You understand now that your conscience is worth $35." The other interesting part that I've seen in my work with communities, trying to educate them about environmental impacts, is the ministers in the churches that want to address it as stewardship issue, would sometimes lose their positions for doing that, because again, the corporations had a lot more clout in the community. It became very political and not because it's a spiritual issue too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? These pastors that are stuck in these churches, and they just have to do what the Lord leads them to do, regardless of the consequences, because they're going to be held accountable.
Yes.
For not feeding the sheep.
Yes.
And it's really a no-win situation.
It is.
But if they lose their positions by man, then they're justified by God.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's right.
Is what the Lord thinks.
Well, what got me through, because I got death threats for fighting these people, the polluters, and, run off the highway, and they threaten to burn our home and stuff like that.
Are you addressing the chemtrail issue?
Yes.
Okay, so you're basically fighting chemtrails?
Well, my issue was toxic waste dumps and incinerators, mostly. And but it's all related. If they're spraying it in our sky, I think that's just another way of waste disposal that they're utilizing.
Yeah, and they found human red blood cells in these chemtrails.
I understand that. It's just another way of exposure, and unfortunately, the majority of the population is not aware. The chemtrails aren't getting enough exposure in the press either.
They ignore them as they take pictures of things outside. In the background, you see chemtrails in the skies.
Mm-hmm.
Their own video clips on the television news.
Yeah.
It's hard to go anywhere outside and not get a background of chemtrails.
Exactly.
They won't address it.
Well, with press pretty much owned by corporations, I don't see us changing that, as far as public education goes.
Yeah.
But, our cancer rates are so extreme in this country, and it just seems like people aren't waking up. One of my questions I wanted to ask you is the point of materialism in this country, in that we're so tied into debt that we can't see beyond that to really look at health issues and long-term impacts of toxins.
Well, that's one of their whole points, is to get everybody in debt. And then when the market crashes, they're already passing tough bankruptcy laws.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to be homeless or dependent on the government.
Exactly.
And they don't see it coming.
They don't see it coming, you're right. I'm trying to push communities to do debt reduction or sort of discussions, trying to get communities to meet about other issues, to start them off in environmental issues. If they'll start on something, then they can improve their community by learning these skills to be a better citizen. We've forgotten about that, how important that is, I think.
Well, the most dangerous thing coming is being caught in debt and being called on a loan overnight, have to pay off your house or leave it.
Yeah.
I would encourage people, if that own these larger homes or whatever, and in debt up to their ears, get something they can afford and pay off and own.
Exactly.
Or they're going to be homeless. I don't care if it's a double-wide trailer, single trailer, pulling one out on some acreage of land somewhere. Get something you can own.
Exactly.
Because so many people are going to be homeless when the stock market crashes, and it's any day.
I think it's imminent. The other concern I had, and I wanted your opinion on this, was our churches today. It seems that people are, I'm a Southern Baptist, and it seems that we've become more conformed instead